Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Where's My Mouse? And
On this week's episode, the mouse is in the house.
it's on one of the screens. But today's show is brought to you by Cloudberry Lab. Check them out, cloudberrylab.com/FRD for a free trial offer that's going away extremely soon. So I would recommend doing that.
How was your weekend?
Um, Interesting. It snowed all Saturday, as I sent you many complaining images about how much I hate you, and none of it stuck.
Oh, that's good.
I mean,
That's good.
the
We are
roads
at the end
never
of that
got
weather
snow on it.
pattern,
We've
so
got maybe 2 inches on the grass, maybe, but
right.
the next day it was 50 degrees and all gone. So
Because we literally got 15 inches of snow, whenever that was, last week or whatever. I mean, it was, you know, pretty significant. But it is at least going away.
but yep, here we are. Paul, I was going to make a joke about your camera, but I'm actually more curious.
Mhm.
Are you? I know you had some at some point. This is just more life contemplating than anything else. Are you using an ultra wide monitor, or what are you using?
No, this is just a 4K 27-inch, 16 by 9, I think,
Hmm.
display. Why do you ask?
I don't know. Well, I'm thinking about moving my office upstairs, and I currently have three 27-inch 4K monitors, which are all very nice.
Oh, and you want to
lovely.
go to a All right, so if you're used to 4K, I'm not aware, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know that the ultra wides come in 4K resolutions, like
Yep,
2160p. Maybe they do
you're
they?
right, and that's my problem.
So yeah, so the ones that I had off the top of my head, this could be inaccurate, but I want to say they were 3840 by 1440,
Hmm.
and I can't go now that I have 4K finally on the
Yep.
desktop. I just can't go back.
That was the highest resolution one I could find was 3840 by 1600, but
Okay.
the PPI or pixels per inch or whatever came down to like
Yeah.
105 or something like that, something comically low compared to what 4K
Yeah.
is, and I was like,
Yeah, I can't do it.
I like the idea of something that's 38 inches across and extremely high resolution, but apparently that does not exist yet.
I mean, those panels must be crazy expensive. They're slightly curved.
Hmm.
It just must be a matter of, just the cost.
Yep. Can you give us a quick update here on the battery life? Because at one point it was stuck at 100%, which is great, but I don't think that's actually what was happening on Friday.
Yeah, that was inaccurate. As suspected, when I rebooted the machine, it's reset to whatever. Um, I wrote something this morning about this that I've been kind of contemplating over the weekend, which was that I hadn't been using this thing correctly. I was doing that on purpose, right? Because we have so many questions around
Hmm.
the battery life and desktop application support. How well do those apps run? How do they impact the battery? There's lots of questions. Um, the short answers to those questions are that the battery life, just using like a benchmark type thing that I always use, is accurate. 20 hours ish. It's not. I don't have a lot of standby data yet, but I'll talk about that in a second. It does run desktop apps for the most part. There are some exceptions. 64-bit apps won't run, so things like Photoshop won't work. Um, and they run poorly when they do run. I mean, for sure. Like even small-ish
Mm.
apps like Markdown Pad, which is just a text editor. Yeah, it's like watching molasses come out of a tree. Does molasses come out of a tree? Probably not. Um, Sap or whatever come out of a tree.
Yeah.
Anywho, so, but I was thinking about it, and actually, as early as Friday, when I was at that developer event, when I was taking notes, um, I noticed, like, actually, this mobile version of OneNote that comes with Windows 10 runs great. Like, one of the things you notice in desktop applications, including that text editor, is that there's a lag. I'm typing, and
Hmm.
what I'm typing is following late. It's noticeable. It's not huge, but it's noticeable. Over the weekend, I figured, well, maybe like something like Word Mobile would make sense, and that works fine, but it's kind of a limited app. The thing that really surprised me was that the version of Word that's in the store, Word 2016, runs great on this laptop. So
Hmm.
that's obviously an x86 app. I don't know if Microsoft's done some work to make it work well, the store version to make it work well on ARM. I suspect it has. Um, but there is no lag with that app at all. I mean, it actually works great. And that and some other things sort of triggered this notion in my head that I'm not thinking of this right, even though I did it on purpose.
Yeah.
That audience for this thing is a slightly different audience. It's not, obviously it's not developers, it's not gamers, it's not any power user really of any kind. If you have special needs with regards to computer applications or whatever, you need a real computer. I mean, that's, fine. And so I've kind of reset things a little bit. But as part of this, then the thing you were alluding to earlier with 100% battery life is I've been sort of monitoring the battery life over the time since. And one of the really interesting things here is that because the near final build of Windows 10 RS4 was released, I think, on Friday, I decided to push all my machines to RS4 now. And two interesting facts about this for the HP is that unlike all of my other PCs, none of which are ARM-based, obviously, this one didn't actually get that newest build, which I think is like 17128 or something. I don't remember the exact number, but it's the one before that, the one with like the 125.1 build or whatever. So it still has the desktop watermark. I suspect that the reason for that is tied to just the fact it's ARM. Maybe they're a little bit behind on that or whatever. But I have not plugged this thing in since Thursday. And at various times over the weekend, I kind of looked at the battery life. I even jotted it down in OneNote. I will look at it right now and tell you where it's at. But like I said, I installed like an insider build on this thing and have not charged it. That's a fairly gruesome thing to do to a computer. Let's see. The battery life as of now is actually pretty low. It's 35%.
That's not too bad.
But I've used it a lot. I've written with it over the weekend. I was doing the work on Friday with it. Obviously, I installed that inside a preview build. And it's interesting to me that even running Windows, that this device provides a mobile device experience where you open it up, it comes on instantly. Obviously, I previously complimented the Surface Laptop and actually Surface Book 2 as well. If they haven't hibernated or gone into some kind of a deep sleep state, which can happen when you don't use it for a long period of time, they actually come on pretty snappily. But where things fall apart on those devices is the connected standby stuff. Once this thing goes into a sleep mode, like a real deep sleep mode, it takes some time. It basically boots up. It takes a while for those things to come on. This computer never does that. So I've never left. I mean, I haven't left it sitting for days. Maybe I should qualify that. But my understanding is that it will never do that. So if I do leave this sitting for 2 days, which I won't now, but at some point will, and I open that thing up, it should just come right on. That's the way it is. It's like a phone or whatever. So, so I'm kind of resetting things. I don't usually do this with devices, but I've already published a number of articles before the review. I'm going to publish a couple more, and then I'll probably wait on the review for the whole thing. But this is obviously kind of a big deal, so I'm kind of approaching it from the standpoint of this needs to be examined a little bit. But for now, or going forward, I'm gonna try to use this the way it was meant to be used, which is I'll use those Office apps in the store. I'll use Edge. And I think the experience, based on what I've seen so far, is actually going to be pretty good, and contrary to the performance issues I had with the desktop applications before.
Well, the good news is that the older apps performance, I would hope at this point, can only get better. And so hopefully Microsoft will figure that out. But it wouldn't surprise me. What would I be interested to know or to try out? You might be able to do this with Spotify, is actually download the desktop Spotify application, run it, play with it, then download the store app and see if there's actually any noticeable.
Right. So I don't know what, my understanding of how a desktop app gets wrapped and, put in the store is definitely limited. I should talk to Raph about this, but I don't know what kind of software magic occurs, especially on the ARM side, for those applications to work correctly. Yeah, I don't know. There are apps like Photoshop that are really complex. That one doesn't run at all because it's a 64-bit app, but I don't know. There's a lot. This thing's really interesting. It's even in desktop mode, because you can't run x86 drivers, like the Microsoft Mouse driver I keep complaining about, or the type of drive you'd get for an all-in-one printer that does scanning and all that kind of stuff. You're kind of in S mode all the time, really, right? It's the S mode I sort of was asking for. Other than I want driver install ability, but the notion that there should be some benefit to this, even when you're not in S mode, just because of the architecture of the machine. If you're not running desktop apps, even if they're on there because you need them from time to time, there's no reason the system can't work really well over a long period of time. It's kind of an interesting middle ground in some ways between real S mode and full-blown Windows 10 Pro, I guess.
Yep. I got nothing because I don't have one of the machines, so I will take your word for it. One other thing, not one other thing, but something else I wrote up earlier today is Microsoft is obviously off to a good start with Microsoft Teams. And the long story short, you can go read it over on Petri.com, is that the ball is in Microsoft's court to actually make this thing great. They've got the momentum. They've got everything they need for this platform to be a huge success, as long as they don't screw it up with either A, not updating it quick enough, or not reacting to what users actually want. And so the ball is in their court to have something great, and they're off to a great start. Just don't screw it up.
I noticed in that photo behind you, what is the Cincinnati Reds Stadium called?
The Great American Ballpark.
Okay. So I noticed they put home plate in the wrong place. It should be inside the park. It looks like...
So I'm gonna acknowledge you something here, Paul. So there's a home plate right here.
Yep.
And it's because I believe this is the right one. There was an old stadium that used to be built here, and I believe that is where one of the bases was in the old stadium.
Oh, that's fun. That's nice.
Yep. And then, Paul, you did some math, which is always dangerous.
I've been working on this for 3 days. It requires the full power of my brain, which I will grant you is not very powerful. So it has to be like a coffee-fueled morning for me to even consider this kind of math. And I put it down 3 different times. And finally this morning, I was going to give it up this morning too. I'm like, I can't do this. And then finally I simplified it. And I was trying to, it's kind of hard to explain, but Microsoft reiterated the other day that there are 600 million Windows 10 devices in the world, blah, blah, blah. Here's the market. But they also provided this interesting bit of data that number was 48% of the total Windows user base, with a little asterisk. The asterisk being that those percentages apply to a base of Windows PCs out in the world that are sending telemetry data. So there are 2 unknowns here on our path to finding out what is the size of the Windows user base overall, right? The first one is what percentage of those Windows 7 and Windows 8X machines are sending telemetry data. We can only guess, although in the article I explain how you can look at net market share data to, maybe fudge it and guess because they have their own data, which is all computers out in the world, including those that are not sending telemetry. But the other one is what percentage of that 600 million is actual Windows 10 PCs, right? We know that Xbox One is counted in there. Windows Phone is presumably counted in there. What does that look like? That one's a little bit less guessworky. My estimate was that 550 million of that 600 million figure represents Windows 10 PCs. It's a guess, but it's probably more accurate than any of my other guesses in this article. I think the number that I arrived at, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, I had so many numbers, but I believe the number was 2.2 billion, which is higher than I thought it was going to be, frankly. Yeah. And I kind of worked back from the net market share data. Microsoft trusts net market share. According to net market share, 29% of all computers browsing the web and out in the world are Windows 10 PCs. If you look just at Windows PCs, it's 25%. That's roughly half of the percentage that Microsoft provided. So we can do a little bit of math and kind of figure out what percentage of Windows 7 and Windows 8X users are not sending telemetry data, if you want to. I tried to do that math. I ended up giving up on it because I don't think it really matters. But I came up with an upper and a lower range for what the Windows user base did. And then I made the assumption that all my previous assumptions were correct, that Microsoft's data is correct, that net market shares data is correct. And if all those things are correct, and they're not, but if they are, I think the number is 2.2 billion. So maybe the word math should have like a set of quotes around it. Oh, look who's back. Little Miss Trouble.
It is always trouble. Nothing good has ever come from math, at least on this podcast.
Yes, I know. I don't know why I keep going down these paths. Like I literally have the worst math skills imaginable, and I can't stop doing math. You should just hit me with a 2x4 every time I bring something like this up.
You heard it here first, folks. It's not assault. Paul actually recommended that I hit him with a 2x4.
It's not assault if he asks for it. Yep.
Oh, man. And then you've got some traveling coming up. Is that correct?
Yeah. Wednesday night, we're flying out to Colorado to visit a bunch of schools. Actually, I think we're going to see 7 overall.
Wow.
Out in Colorado for my daughter. So from Fort Collins down to Colorado Springs, out to Boulder, Denver, Greeley. I'm missing something. Some other places. Denver. Did I say Denver? I don't know. Anyway, the whole kit and caboodle thing. So we'll be busy actually Thursday, Friday for sure. And then Saturday morning too. But, we'll see some of our old friends and coworkers out there. I should see Michelle and Peg and Megan and some others, I think. You didn't work with her, but also Amy. Some other folks. So yeah, that should be good. But I think I'm going to be able, like I told you earlier, I think I'll be able to do like a phone-based thing at least for the podcast. So I should be good. Thank you for leaving hair all over my white desk again. I just cleaned it. I love cat. I love animals. They're the best. Second only to the kids.
Yeah. I don't know. You got anything else for today, Paul?
No, I'm going to the dentist. Nobody needs to worry about that too much, I guess. No, I got a bunch of stuff. Still lots of stuff I'm working on that's not been published yet. It dribbles out. How about you?
Nothing.
Actually,
there's always stuff to be working.
I should mention one more thing. I write this book, The Windows 10 Field Guide, and I've been updating it for 1709, right? And here we are on the eve of 1803, and I'm still updating it. Originally, I was going to probably stop updating the book at this point and maybe work on a second volume to what nature, who knows. But looking at what's new in 1803, I decided I'm going to keep supporting it in this book. I'll support the new version, support Windows 10 on ARM, S mode, etc. And so I kind of flowed right into 1803 over the weekend. So I actually updated each of the chapters to kind of, not fully, right, to address all the new changes, but to sort of address the fact that this is happening. So if you are a reader of the book, I'll be updating at least through 1803 now. So that's actually a big change. And if you're not a reader of the book, I think we're going to have a sale soon, but it's not up yet. So don't buy it now. That would be a huge mistake. But anyway, that will happen soon.
There you go.
Oh, cat.
Oh, Meerkat's still working. Still holding on strong today. Well, folks, that wraps it up for today. Today's show is obviously brought to you by Cloudberry Lab. Check them out, cloudberrylab.com/FRD to learn how to back up your data just a little bit better, or just click the link below. And have yourselves a restful Monday, or whatever the heck you're doing on a Monday, but we'll catch you right back here tomorrow.
God, this cat.